already seen it. Okay. All right.
Twice.
I have to say I'm really envious that you're seeing it in this IMax theater. That is certainly not something I've tackled on my list. So for those of you who haven't seen it, there's nothing I can say to prepare you.
Demi, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and to echo everybody else, congratulations on your wins and your nominations. It is such an incredible thing. And in your Golden Globe speech, you kind of mentioned the moment this crazy script came across your desk. There's so much in director Coralie Farge's extraordinary screenplay, but what is the one thing that you couldn't stop thinking about once you'd read it the first time?
I think, first of all, I think the subject matter, what really was fascinating, but it was the unique way in which she was setting out to explore this subject matter. But the thing that really, I think, hit me, really resonated the most, was that violence that we can have against ourselves. I think we all kind of understand the circumstance of women of a certain age being marginalized. I don't think that's new information, but what I felt was just that exploration of the harshness that we can have and what that might look like if we were to take the way in which we can sometimes speak to ourselves, the things that we think about, and if that were to be physically manifested, what would it look like? And that's kind of what happens.
So where did it start then in terms of the both of you collaborating? What was your process?
This is a very personal story for Coralie, and I think that she had been living and working on it for so much longer than before I came into the picture, that a lot of our conversations were really, I think, her wanting to make sure that I really understood the sensitivity of it. And what was interesting is we met 6 times before she offered it to me, and at a certain point, I felt like there were the best way that I could communicate without trying to convince someone. I actually gave her my memoir to read, where I really explored just kind of my own journey with my own relationship with my body and the things of my own self-judgment. And I think after that, there was something in that, I think, that really allowed her to really not just believe, but really know that I understood this.
Yeah. And what kind of director is Coralie?
Well, the interesting with this is, one, part of what was also really unique in this is that there's very little dialogue, and most of my scenes are just with myself. Yes. And there was a lot of very technical aspects, and so I felt like a big part of what was important for me to bring to this, because for those of you who haven't seen it, as you will see, it goes to some fairly extreme places, is that my job was to really anchor this into a reality, so that there was a real foundation for it to go to the more extreme places.
That's so interesting, because as you say, there isn't much dialogue, and so much of Elizabeth Sparkle, the protagonist, so much of her is internal. So how do you prepare for that as an actor?
I took really a lot of extra care in my prep for this, because it was really important to me that I felt that in every moment that I would be alive. And part of that meant, I really did detailed work going through every scene, because in a sense, many of my scenes are either just looking in reflection of myself, so that I was always in constant conversation with me. And it's very a different experience when we're looking at ourselves, when we're in those intimate moments alone, with no one else watching.
Yeah. So was there anything that you learned about yourself when you were kind of watching yourself? It's quite unnatural to stare at yourself for hours and hours and hours.
It's not the most comfortable.
No. So is there anything that you learned about yourself as an actor, about how you like to perform, just by the sheer kind of volume of watching yourself?
I think it was really more just a process of really being present, being prepared, and then letting go to be really in the moment. I think that in stepping in to do something like this that was extremely emotionally raw and vulnerable, as well as physically, that really pushed me out of my comfort zone. because it's impossible, I'm human, to not have the awareness when I know my body is going to be shown and you know, seen and judged, to not have those kind of sensitive, insecure moments. And I feel like the gift that I gained from this was an even greater sense of acceptance of myself on the other side. And so that really brought, I think, some real personal liberation.
You and your co-star, Margaret Polly, I mean, you are incredible, you're electric together when you are in scenes together. And you have to go to some really vulnerable places, as you alluded to. So what was your collaboration like between the two of you, and how did you sort of help each other?
You know, we kind of had like an immediate connection that was very, that didn't really require a lot of dialogue. I think we have a similar approach, and I think we both felt very protective of one another. And so it just kind of unfolded very naturally. And you know, there's a scene where Margaret's naked body is falling on my naked body on a cold tile floor, and at one point Margaret said, "Thank God we like each other, or this would be really awkward." And it's the truth, but I think we really, you know, I think we both really look forward to the kind of end scene, because it was our first moment to really be able, where we were both conscious.
Yes.
In a scene.
Yes.
I adore her. I wish she could be here. It's been the most fun being able to go and share this experience with her, as it was then, but even more so now.
Yeah. And what was your rehearsal process like between you? I mean, were you able
We didn't
to
actually have a lot. We didn't. We didn't have a lot. We, you know, a lot of it was really just kind of finding it in the moment, except for, say, we have a big, you know, physical fight scene, and that required a little bit more choreography, so no one got hurt. And, you know, we were shooting for 5.5 months. And so we also were, both of us, away from home, and so that was, there was nothing easy about this.
I mean, we won't go into details for those who haven't seen it, but you undergo a huge transformation in the film using makeup and prosthetics. And as an actor, what's it like to perform underneath all of those layers and still sort of come out with a performance?
It's very interesting. I would say first, you know, for me, my prosthetic work was anywhere from 6 to 9.5 hours, and then about always a good hour to an hour and a half to remove it, and then obviously trying to then get as much shooting time in as you possibly can. Margaret's was a little less time, but perhaps a little bit more uncomfortable. And the interesting thing is, you know, the time spent really allows you almost to start to, to embody a different shape as it's being applied. But one of the things I found is that because you still feel like that as soon as it was ready to go, I would always take at least like 2 minutes just so that I could look at myself in the mirror and really anchor in on, this is who you are right now. This is who it is, so that I really could kind of just really merge and be in alignment with this different person of me.
Did other people's reactions...
It's so hard talking about this like before the movie.
It's really hard. But did other people's reactions kind of impact your performance when you were sort of unrecognizable?
I mean, I think it was fairly shocking, but you know, once you're on a set and you're doing this many days in a row, it starts to just become normalized. Not that what you're going to see is at all normal.
I mean, it's such a visceral, grotesque film, and it doesn't let anyone off the hook. Are there any of your specific phobias that are kind of explored in this?
I would say, if anybody's seen the trailer and sees Dennis Quaid eating the shrimp, I don't know if I ever need to experience that again. Seriously, it's the most violent scene in the movie. It's so disgusting. It's so gross. And the thing about it is, he loved it.
Did he?
Oh my God, he loved it. He ate through 4 pounds.
No.
Shrimp. He just, with such relish and gusto. and that slurping and all of it. It was.
Oh my goodness. I remember seeing like the bits between his teeth as well. That really got me. The production design of this film as well is absolutely extraordinary. Like these sort of the really bold colours, the sort of endless corridors, the walls closing in. So how did all of that sort of help your performance?
I think all of that was really important, as is the sound design.
Yeah.
I think that, Corley is a very visual and symbolic storyteller, and the beautiful thing with there being so little dialogue is it really shows you that our emotions, our feelings, they're universal. It doesn't require a language. It is a language unto itself.
Yeah. Do you think that Corley sort of takes inspirations from other directors?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think there was even a compilation reel, I think, that I saw put together of it, and I think that as any cinephile, I think you see moments of The Shining, you see definitely, moments that are with real reverence to, I think, films and filmmakers that have inspired her.
Yeah, I mean, the Cronenberg kind of body horror is
for sure
visible a lot.
But I mean, I think that the yellow coat has become such a signature of this. I mean, it made Halloween very interesting.
That must have been so strange for you. There are a lot of, because I was trying to talk about this after I saw it, and I hadn't quite come to terms with my own feelings about it, and then just started to break down and cry, and I hadn't realised that was my response to it until it happened. And there are so many messages in this about sort of, as you were alluding to, self-hatred and body dysmorphia and the industry's obsession with youth and beauty. So do you think that this film might mark a shift in attitudes towards women's bodies?
I mean, what I think is that it's not exclusive to women. I think it's to us as human beings. We've all been there chasing a moment of trying to make something, perfect only to make it worse. And I think, again, as I was saying at the beginning, I think we all understand the circumstance, but more importantly, in this, it's that violence that we have against ourselves. And when we change how we hold ourselves, when we value ourselves as we are in this moment, I think the world will then follow. And I think that that's very true. I think that there is an aspect for me that the film really shows, kind of the male perspective of the idealized woman. But that we as women have bought into. And so when we change how we see ourselves, I think the world will follow.
So with that in mind, do you kind of want audiences to sort of leave with thinking about something specific, any messages that you want?
I mean, I think it really, I would never want to dictate what somebody else should take away from it, but I can say, what I would hope and what I feel and have heard that's come forward from this is just this idea of not wasting time focusing on all that we're not when we could be celebrating all that we are.
Yeah. And finally, for the audience who are about to see it, is there something in particular that you'd like them to look out for that they might not have seen on a first watch, or something that you feel like has maybe gone a bit under the radar, or something that is a particular favourite thing of yours in the film?
I don't want to say. Do you have one? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I have a lot.
Okay. I think that there's a lot of very profound, very subtle things. I think one of the things that comes through is as I get this second opportunity in this new body, it's very interesting and very human to all of us. I repeat the same pattern. I seek the same validation. And I really feel like that is also like a very major truth. Until we break a pattern, we will keep repeating it. So I think that's just one of the subtle things.
Yeah.
But no, there's no one moment.
This film is really a film of so many of those incredible, impactful moments. For those who are yet to see it, you are in for such a treat. And for those returning, I know why you're here. Demi Moore, everybody. Thank you so much. Please enjoy the substance.
Hi, everybody.
you guys.